Welcome to the Listening Well, the space where every story matters. I'm Shania, your host and therapist, here to share real conversations and anonymous letters from listeners who are ready to speak their truth or just share something that they want to tell. Some stories are spoken, some are written, all are worth hearing. Let's listen in. Hi everyone, we are back with another solo episode for where we are listening and tuning into stories that are either written in or they are Reddit stories. And when they are Reddit stories, as always, I always check in with the writers of the stories just to make sure that they're comfortable with their stories being shared on the pod. So we have two main stories today coming from Reddit. Still waiting on some written in stories. I am so grateful that so many of our guests or people that want to come onto the podcast do want to come and be present fully. But as always said, if you would like to share your story and maybe you're not super comfortable with having your face out there, we do have that anonymous option for your stories to be read in this context, just like the Reddit stories. So we have two main ones, and if we have time, we have a third. Third one's pretty short, but these two are fairly lengthy. All three of the Reddit stories are coming from the advice section on Reddit. And the first one that we are reading is titled Struggling with Work After Loss of a 3-year-old, but people keep insisting it'll be therapeutic. So just a warning, this story does mention child death. So if this is something that might be difficult for you, our episodes always have chapters, so you could always skip to the next story if that might potentially be a triggering topic for you. Please prioritize your safety. So it reads, I posted here before about the loss of my 3-year-old due to sudden cardiac arrest caused by genetic conditions. He had a form of SCR1NA gene mutation, as well as a Chiari, I'm probably saying that wrong. I'll just go with Chiari malformation type 1. His body just couldn't do it anymore. I work at a daycare. Oh, that must be hard. As a 2 to 3-year-old teacher, and every day is a struggle. I'm able to go through the day, but I'm burning out. I get triggered, and all I want to do is cry and scream, but I can't. The kids I'm responsible for still need care, and they're terrible at answering when the children are hurt. Forget me asking to step away when I'm not okay. So I'm forced to ball it all up until the end of the day because I let myself cry during lunch. I won't eat at all. For one, I am so sorry to hear that you lost your son, and it is incredibly difficult to return back to work in a space where you're working with children that are around the same age of you as your son. Like, just a reminder, she lost her child at 3 years old, and she's a daycare teacher supporting 2 to 3-year-olds. So I'm sure it's really hard to just bear witness to children who are of that same age, in that same developmental stage that your child was, because I'm sure it's so easy to see the things that you loved and cared for in your son in those children. And I'm sure it's a constant reminder of that loss too. It's incredibly courageous for you to go back to work in this space. And in your mentioning of being burnt out, I feel that burnout is not only coming from a place of grieving the loss of your son, the sudden loss of your son, but also being in a space that has so much remembrance of your child and where they were in their life. I'm sure it's incredibly hard to grieve as you're sharing. It's really difficult to grieve, not only because you're in this space with so much remembrance of your son, but also it sounds like there aren't really many opportunities for you to have a moment to yourself when you need to. And I understand that, most daycares, you usually have, depending on the age of the children, like maybe one teacher to about so many other children. And if there isn't like another staff person on site, like you have to be there, you have to be present until you go on your lunch and you're relieved, or it's the end of the day and all the children go. So you don't really get that space to care for yourself in those moments when you need to. I'm really curious about how much time you had or you were able to have for yourself before you went back to work. And if you didn't have much time, I would really encourage you into thinking about what it looked like to take a break. And if your employer doesn't provide some sort of medical leave or benefits of some sort, which a lot of daycare providers don't have benefits in general. So I wouldn't be, unfortunately, very surprised if you don't have the option to do so. I hope that you have the means to be able to take a step back and take a break, because I think that taking a break, not only to process, but to not be submerged in remembrance of your child, would be really beneficial for not only your grieving process, but your mental health in general. So I'm going to continue reading. She says that I'm struggling to connect and talk to parents. I think that's totally understandable, especially because their children are still here. So there's that disconnect of, I'm coming to tell you about your kids, what's going on with their development, how they're doing in class. And I'm someone who would be in that same shoe if my child was still here. So that's incredibly difficult to connect with other parents. I don't know if you have other children or not, especially if you don't have other children. It's like you lost that identity that you may have had with yourself to be able to really connect and have an understanding with other parents. I think it can be, I'm sure it can be really isolating to be in a situation where you had your son and you're working with children and families who were in a similar situation to you. And now there's a lot of difference between yourself and those other parents. It continues to read, and I'm struggling to even interact with the kids. Everything feels like a knife between my ribs, every present and digging deeper with every moment. I am not enjoying my job like I used to because I only have enough spoons to take care of the basics anymore. I feel like I'm losing my mind a little because I've never struggled like this before. This is a type of grief that many of people hopefully will not experience, to lose a child so young. Not only are you grieving the loss of a child, but you're also grieving the loss of the life of that child and what that future looked like for them as an individual, and also for you as a parent too. So I completely understand the space that you're in where you might be feeling like, you said, quote unquote, like you're losing your mind a little bit, but like you're in a mental space that's much different than before. And it sounds like your mental capacity, in terms of only having enough of spoon to take care of the basics anymore, your capacity is really low. And to be able to support children, you need a decent amount of capacity to show up in that space and to show up in the way that you want to. And it sounds like there's a lot of conflict there, that internal conflict of, there's this person that I was before this thing happened to me, and I'm not that person anymore. I don't enjoy my job the way that I used to. I'm not connecting with these kids the way that I used to. So I just really hope that you're able to connect to some resources. I might be jumping the gun in this story, but I think it would be really important to speak to a therapist, speak to a grief counselor, most in particular, and to find community and other parents who may have lost their children at a young age. I'm sure that there are support groups, whether they are in person or are online, just having a way to not feel so othered or in isolation of the experience that you're going through. While I can't guarantee that, going into those support groups or spaces that those parents lost their children to the same situation, but I am sure that whatever reason for that loss, that they can resonate with what you're going through and they can hold space for you, and you both can see each other within those moments and really be there for each other. I think it'll be really important for you to find some community, but most importantly, also take a large consideration into thinking about taking a break from your job, or just kind of maybe leaving that space of working with such young children for a bit of time until you're in a space where this the pain that you're experiencing isn't as heavy. Okay. So she says, I reduced my full-time schedule down to 3 days a week instead of 5 days, and I'm actively in therapy. Awesome, amazing. It does take some time though. I just want to say therapy takes some time, and I really hope that you have a good therapist that's working with you. I always say that it's not about whether therapy works, it's about whether you have the right therapist for you. So I'm really hoping that you have quality resources and someone that can really support you in this moment and past that too. Okay. She says, I just feel so tired and broken when I go home. I still have the 4-year-old at home to think about too. Okay, so she is a parent who already had a child. So she had 2 kids and now she has 1 child, and it sounds like they're fairly close in age. The child who's still here is 4 years old, and the child that she lost is 3 years old. So she says, I still have the 4-year-old at home to think about too. I get guilty that I use my spoons at work and have to struggle so much to give her what she deserves, what I used to be able to give. My parents might be approaching this from a more financial standpoint, but they're trying to encourage me to keep pushing through. They keep saying that I can't stop living because he's gone and that those kids need me like he needed me. It's not the same though. And I agree in that too. Like, I get what your parents are saying as like, it's important to like live your day to day, take it day by day. That is super important. But I do think that you could be going through your day to day and having your income somewhere else that doesn't involve, children who are either the same or very close to the age of your son in this time. It can always be something that you can go back to. Daycares always needs somebody, there's never enough of staff at daycare. So I feel like it's not something that you have to walk away from forever, but I do think that it's something that you need to walk away from right now. And it's something that you can always go back to when you feel ready. And when you're in that space, then you're really giving that piece of yourself back to you when you're ready to receive it. It's just that right now, there's so much hurt, so much pain that you don't have the space or the capacity to be there with so much remembrance. And then to come home, like you said, your capacity is full. You already gave your best that you have, your 100% that you have, just to be present for the children that you work with there at the school, at the daycare. So when you're coming home, all of that energy has already been given. So now it sounds like there's really little to give to your 4-year-old daughter who is still here and who is at home. She says, it makes me angry because I don't want life to stop. I want to be sad. I want to be sad that I don't get to go home to my little boy. No, I get to go home to a box of ashes that used to be him. I'm so sorry. The parents serviced by my employer get to take their kids home at the end of the day, while I'll never see my boy again, and I barely get to see my girl because I'm at work. And that's just where I'm really reiterating the importance of taking a step back, and maybe even if your finances allow, of course, because like not everyone has the means to have so many options. But if you're able to take a break and be home and spend that extra time with your daughter right now, I think that would be super helpful. Or even like doing some soul searching and seeing what other passions you might have, because to work with children, you have to be passionate about it. So seeing what other type of passions might align with that and doing something else until you feel ready. You're not wrong for no longer wanting to work with children right now. You're not wrong for not connecting with other parents because there's so much hurt and there's a misunderstanding for you because, like you said, they get to bring their kids home and you don't. So you're not wrong for that. You are able to have these thoughts and you are able to have these feelings. And I hope that your level of transparency here, you're able to give that same level of transparency with your therapist when you're ready so they can really help you process these thoughts and feelings. But we also have to be in environments where we can do that work too. And it really sounds like working in that daycare right now just isn't a good fit at the moment. So she continues to say, and this is kind of the closing, my sister, who has PTSD unrelated to this event, is also telling me that while work will be triggering, I should push through. She says I can't ignore my triggers, and she isn't wrong. She didn't cope well with her situation and developed PTSD and an inability to go outside without her service dog. She's trying to help me potentially avoid her fate, but how can I when this hurts more than I feel helps? I used to enjoy the job, even with the stress. Now it just feels empty, and I don't know what to do about it. I find it really unfortunate that, I feel like your family's coming from the best place that they can in this moment and saying, you got it, you're gonna be fine, you can't stop living, you gotta keep going through your day to day, keep doing what you're doing, kind of the positivity train. But I also think that it's really important for people to sit and just validate and saying, yeah, this is hard. Yeah, I do get it. And saying that working with these kids right now is not good for you. What else can you do? Because not working at the daycare doesn't mean that you're stopping your life or you're no longer present and doing your day to day. It's just taking a step back from something that's so harmful to you right now so that you can process and do that work and have that capacity. Because it's just the job, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, you have to have the passion to work with children. But right now the passion isn't there. And you're also feeling burnt out. So when you're burnt out, it's either what can you do for yourself to move through it, to maintain where you're at, or making the decision of I need to step away from this right now because it's not helpful or healthy for me. And I really truly feel like a step back is more than most likely the best thing to do. And I really hope that you have the means to either take a break entirely or to be able to find work elsewhere where hopefully maybe there's still that connection to your passion, but not working with children of such a young age. I wonder if there's space to maybe work with an older age group or to maybe even just I really think you should work in another place. I feel like any age group that's a young age group that's in a daycare is going to be triggering. And it is okay to remove yourself from triggering environments. I am really sorry to hear that your sister's in a space where her symptoms that she experiences due to her PTSD, she's unable to go outside without her service dog. And her situation doesn't determine what your experience is going to be. I just want to end with saying I'm so incredibly sorry for the situation that you're in. I can't imagine how you're feeling. It's so courageous, whether it's anonymous or not, to share your story in the way that you did and to put your feelings out there. And I'm glad that you're looking for help. You're working with a therapist. You're also looking to get other feedback from other people too. And I haven't looked at the comments, but I hope that it's positive as well, and supportive as well. You can take a break. You can make a change based off an experience that you have, and that's okay. Your feelings are valid. You are a valuable person. You have things to live for. And working in a daycare is not who you are. It's something that you do, and it can be something that you did, and maybe something that you do in the future. But I do think that the best thing for you right now is to take that step back. Okay. Would love to see your comments, any advice in addition to what I shared that you would have for this person. As always, in Spotify, you can drop your comments. Same thing on YouTube. Let's go on to the next story. This is going to be the last one for today. Our bonus one could be in the next episode. So the title reads, I just realized how lonely I am when I couldn't get a medical procedure done due to having no one to take me home. So it reads, I honestly can't believe I'm writing this, but it's true. I'm 28. If you saw me walking down the street, you wouldn't think for a second that this is my situation. I'm fairly attractive, stylish, have an okay-ish job, and my coworkers all think I'm normal. I used to have it all, I really did. For 27 years, I had 2 loving parents who doted on me. I had 2 best friends, and then a bunch of random friends. My sister and I were close. I had a partner of 5 years. Within the last 2 years, yes, 2 years, I lost my mother to cancer. I'm so sorry to hear that. My dad then got diagnosed with cancer too and is now in the hospital. That is so incredibly hard. And incredibly heavy. I'm really so sorry to hear that. My sister moved to a different country to live with her fiance and have their kid. My female best friend and I have drifted so much that we only send catch-up texts every now and then, and she never has time for me. My male best friend hit on me while I was grieving, and we argued after I felt uncomfortable. He's since blocked me on everything. And then random friends I had through college and work all have drifted away, most barely even interacting on social media anymore or texting me. It's so embarrassing that one of them I even tried to hang out with so much, and she always had excuses. The last one, she replied, "I have to hang out with my mother. I didn't bother anymore after." So it sounds like in that 2 years of time, you went from being in the space where you had a lot of community, you had a lot of connections with a lot of people. You had both of your parents present in your life. You were close with your sister. You had a good, strong support system. That's what it is. Circle of people that you felt connected to. And it sounds like in this 2 year time, not only are you going through the grief of your mom, but you're also dealing with your dad receiving cancer. And I'm sure that brings up a lot, especially when your mom also recently passed with cancer too. And in the midst of this, it sounds like your support system has really broken down in a way that those resources, those connections, that support was never replenished at any point of time. So it reads, my partner of 5 years ended up ending things out of nowhere. I've since realized I don't care anymore and I'm over it. However, to go from living with someone and all having mutual friends to nobody has stung. Of course, I think anybody would feel really upset with seeing, such a drastic change over that time period, especially with no replenishment of those social supports and connections. But for a while, it reads, but for a while, it was just me and my dad, and we got on great. With his cancer diagnosis, he's got no one else. My sister can't help as she's abroad, so I've been the only one, and I've had to cut back hours at work due to this. I thought I was friendly with my coworkers until I saw one of them leaving and had a leaving night with everyone, and I wasn't invited. They told me afterwards they didn't know if I'd be up for it, but one of them had lied on the night they were going out and told me they had nothing planned, so I'm not sure I believe that. I've recently been having pain in my teeth and went to the dentist despite it being a huge fear of mine. It turns out I need all of my wisdom teeth out that should have been out ages ago, and another extraction. My dentist was so kind and offered to use laughing gas as I went to another dental surgery and she could recommend someone for me. So we set up the appointment. I had to go for a talk first to sign papers, and they told me I need someone to drive me home. So when you have like any type of procedure, no matter what it is, like if you're under any type of like anesthesia, like laughing gas, you have to have someone bring you home, and you can't use an Uber because I think in some people's minds are like just take an Uber. They specifically will not allow you to use an Uber because you are under medication and they can't guarantee your safety by you going on an Uber. So they really do require someone that you know to come. The person that knows you has to stay on the premises, like give their phone number. Like it's a really serious thing. And it's really just to make sure that you are safe after the procedure while you're coming, down from whatever type of medication or substance that they used to be able to do the procedure comfortably. I told them I didn't have anyone as my dad was in the hospital. They looked at me funny and were like, not a boyfriend, friends, anyone. I had to be honest and say no. There's no one around me. I texted my best female friend and asked if she happened to be free on the day it was scheduled. She told me no, she had to work, and asked what it was for. I didn't want to embarrass myself, but I just told her I needed someone to come with me for an appointment, and she read my message and didn't respond. It's been a week now, but I'm not surprised as we haven't properly hung out in a year. So it sounds like in these relationships, you have really potentially gone out of your way to maintain them. Like it sounds like there has been like numerous occasions of you trying to like hang out with people in different ways. I wonder if there have ever been any conversations around like the distance or the change that you're experiencing. I think that it's more than appropriate to have conversations with the people that are a part of your support group that you care about when it comes to like experiencing changes within the dynamics of the relationship. So thinking about the people that you're most closest to, like I know you said that there were a couple people that were kind of like random friend groups, maybe you weren't super close, but thinking about like your best friend here, for an example, someone who you felt comfortable to go to ask if they were available. I do think that it's unfortunate that you couldn't share with them the reason for the appointment. Like there's a possibility that they could have felt more inclined to help out, because for them they could have been like maybe it's just like a regular checkup, like I'm not gonna take off for work for something that might be like quote unquote minuscule, like in comparison to having like an entire procedure like getting your wisdom teeth removed. I feel like judging their character potentially is a little bit more fair when you give them like the full scope and give them all the information. But I do understand like, having certain thoughts and feelings about having your wisdom teeth removed or getting dental work, any kind of work done, and maybe not wanting to disclose those things. But since they are someone that you were really close to at one point, I think it's worth to give them all the information and then maybe to have a conversation with them too. Some people need a little bit of accountability to be able to, see how they could potentially be hurting somebody else. If you're someone who has like a tendency to not confront people or share your feelings with others about how they treat you, then for them, they might not think that it's necessary to provide an explanation. And I think that's pretty unfair. But to create a level playing field, since you're on the receiving end of like what sounds like you are describing as like mistreatment by the people that you cared for and were a part of your circle, your social support system, that I think you might owe it to yourself to have a little bit of clarity on what's going on. Especially when you're kind of in this space where you're feeling really disconnected and it sounds like you do need other people. Not only because like you're still grieving the loss of your mom, I'm sure, now your dad's going through something else too, like you need some other people to lean on, because as you can see, like we can't go through this life on our own. So what does it look like to reconnect with people, potentially possibly put ourselves out there to be able to do that? While it's super uncomfortable, it's still something that's worth giving a try, giving a chance, having those conversations and saying like, hey, like we haven't hung out legitimately in a really long time. How are you doing? What's going on for you? Here's what's going on for me. I could really use a person right now, because there's a huge possibility that these other people are going through something too. And maybe we're all kind of doing this thing of going through what we're experiencing, not leaning on the people that are supposed to be a part of our support systems, and then creating further disconnect between everybody. So I think that, as humans, it's helpful to us to just give each other a little bit of grace and give each other a bit of a chance as well in opening up that conversation so that we can have a place of understanding. Because then otherwise we just create our stories and our assumptions, and it sounds like yours are these people just kind of up and abandoned me randomly, don't know what's going on, but it sounds like there are no conversations being had to be able to validate those feelings and validate those assumptions as well. So I would highly encourage you, maybe with this one friend, I'm not sure about the other people that are within this dynamic. It doesn't sound like they are really close people. But sometimes all you really need is like one good friend to be there for you. And it sounds like this person was trying to get to know your situation, maybe to like assess the severity of your need, which but I do think that level of information might have been helpful for them. Also recreating that trust, and that could have potentially been an opportunity for you both to be able to connect together. And I know being left unread for a week is not an enjoyable thing, very frustrating, very annoying even. But I do think it's still worth reaching out and saying like, hey, like I just want to let you know that this is what that surgery is for. You can even say like, I felt kind of embarrassed about having to even ask you because we haven't hung out in a while. And then maybe there's that opportunity for you guys to talk, to have a conversation, to really get to know each other in terms of like today's day and what's going on for the both of you. So at the end of this, she says, so I just told them to do it without the gas. Oh my gosh, that sounds rough. Because it was all arranged, as I had a fear they said they weren't comfortable and would send me back to my original dentist. So that's where I'm at now. They scheduled me for the surgery next week to do without any gas or help. I couldn't imagine getting my wisdom teeth removed with no support to be able to work through that. I'm so sorry. And at the end, she says, I just realized how lonely I am. Not one single person on earth to come drive me to a dental appointment. Not one. I just have no idea what to do anymore. And I'm just, reinstating that it may be worth reconnecting with that one best friend. And then also seeing, how do you create more social supports? How do you get yourself out there? How do you create community again? Because it sounds like you really thrived in having people that you're connected to and figuring out what it looks like to get back in that space again. That can look like maybe joining different groups. Like there's a website called meetup.com. They also have an app. You can always look for different events that are going on in the area. There's groups that do certain like niche things, a lot of Facebook groups too. Maybe even finding hobbies. Hobbies are a really great way to find other people who are interested in the things that you're interested in. And hopefully that can, create friendships and relationships and things from there. I'm really sorry that you're dealing with so many things alone. And I just want to reiterate that as humans, we need other people. We have to lean on other people because we're not meant to do this life alone. And sometimes we might have to give a gentle nudge to other people that we care about and saying like, hey, I care about you. I care about our friendship, our relationship. Can we have a conversation? How do we get back connected again? These are my feelings. What are your feelings, to be able to create a space of understanding and empathy? So that is all for today's episode. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing any thoughts or comments that are shared in our Spotify. If you have Spotify, you can always talk in the comments, and also over on our YouTube as well. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. And as always, be well. Thanks for joining me at the Listening Well. If you have a story, a secret you've never shared, or a question you'd like advice on, or just something that you would like to share with somebody else, you can send it in anonymously if you wish at the email thelisteningwell25@gmail.com. Every story matters here, and I can't wait to hear yours. Until next time, keep listening and sharing.